unprecedented and dangerous move in Georgia. Stacey Abrams came out earlier today, and while she claimed she probably doesn't have a path for victory in this race, she's still falling short of making a concession to Brian Kemp. Further, she says she'll file a federal lawsuit to challenge, quote, gross mismanagement of the Georgia electoral process. So let me get this straight. You don't like how the election is playing out, so you threaten legal action and at one point call for an entirely new election. After browbeating then-candidate Trump back in 2016 over whether or not he would accept the results of the presidential election, the Democrats have now made this constant challenge posture their new normal. Like, no one likes to lose, I don't. But this is all getting a little bit ridiculous. Here with reaction is someone who represented the great state of Georgia as Speaker of the House, Newt Gingrich. And Newt, first question, would the Abrams camp feel this emboldened, do you think, if Democratic leaders like, they had Hillary Clinton down there, had Cory Booker, Sherrod Brown was there, egging them on, basically saying if she doesn't win, the election was stolen?
Yeah, let's start with that. You have a whole series of Democrats who've just said bluntly, if our candidate doesn't win, they stole the election. Now, they have no proof of it, but they have a whole model now, whether it's yelling racist or whatever it is, where if they smear you enough, this is the Kavanaugh model repeated over and over again. So Georgia, they want to set up Stacey Abrams so she'll be the person who had the election stolen from her. So for the next 4 years, she can run for governor as the person who should have been governor, except it was stolen from her. Of course, since she's black, it must have been an act of racism, and therefore the whole thing compounds. This is a game they're playing. If you look at Florida, which has a similar problem, we now know, thanks to USA Today, the Democrats actually were methodically planning to cheat on the election after it became so close, and actually were printing up materials that were designed just to steal the election. They all only backed down because they got caught. But we're seeing in both Florida and Georgia a very similar pattern. If you don't let the Democrat winning, then you're cheating. And it's been stolen because you're not allowed to win. They're supposed to win.
Well, Newt, the Georgia code on when you can contest the result of an election is very clear. Section 21-2522. As a result of a primary or election may be contested on one of the following grounds: misconduct, fraud, or irregularity by any primary or election official or officials sufficient to change or place in doubt the result. There's no evidence that any of that happened here. Yet again, as you pointed out, it's almost like none of the facts matter. This is all about 2020. This is all about building the momentum for more identity politics going into 2020 with the goal of finally flipping Georgia to a total blue state. They want to do that in Florida, Newt. They want to do it in Texas, and they've made some gains in Texas. And the suburbs around Dallas, they won Pete Sessions' seat. So this is a play that they're making across the country, even in the reddest of states like Texas.
Sure. I mean, let's start with the idea. Why would we think they want to obey the law? They don't think the law matters. They think the law represents the old order. Stacey Abrams said at one point in the campaign, her blue wave includes legal and illegal people. Now, then she said, oh, I didn't really mean that. But she does mean it. And again, over and over, everywhere you turn, California, which has had a weird series of votes, Arizona, the fact is, again and again, you have a Democratic Party dedicated to winning at any cost, dedicating to steal the election if they have to, and if they can't win, dedicated to blaming the Republican. So you have this weird experience. They try to steal the election. If they fail, they say you're stealing it because you won honestly. And sadly, because of the liberal news media, they get away with a lot of this.
Well, Newt, we have other very bizarre things happening. And now I can't believe we're already looking at 2020. But a woman that you have put out front and center as someone who you think might be the nominee in 2020 is Kamala Harris. And yesterday, I think she shocked even Democrats with how she described ICE, okay? So you made this, let's first play Newt's prediction the last time you were on about the senator we're speaking about.
I personally think it's going to be Kamala Harris. I'm going to stick with that unless she doesn't run. I think an African-American woman, former attorney general from California, just has enormous resources, and I think she clears the field.
Like I said, you predicted that she was going to be the 2020 nominee. Now, alluding to what I just referenced, this is what she said about immigration's customs enforcement just yesterday.
Are you aware of the perception of many about how the power and the discretion at ICE is being used to enforce the laws? And do you see any parallels?
I do not see any parallels between
I'm talking about perception.
Officers and agents.
I'm talking about perception.
I do not see a parallel between what is constitutionally mandated as it relates to enforcing the law.
Are you aware that there's a perception?
I see no.
Are you aware that there's a perception
that puts ICE in the same category as the KKK?
Yeah, the KKK, Newt. That's where we are now, with a duly appointed agency under the umbrella of Homeland Security. That's what it is. It's all about race.
But in a Democratic primary, would you rather be the person who is condemning law enforcement or the person who's defending law enforcement? Do you want to be the person who's defending sanctuary cities, which are an explicit act of breaking the law? Or do you want to be the person who says, maybe we shouldn't break the law and should turn in illegal criminals? Now, you know, in a Democratic primary, it is a dead loser to be pro-ICE and to be pro-locking up criminals.
I get it. I get it.
To you
now.
and me, this sounds weird,
Yeah.
but I'm not sure it's weird for them.
Yeah, so for them it makes perfect sense. I want to play one more thing for you,
Sure.
Newt. This is from your friend Joe Scarborough, former Republican, Panhandle native. What he said about what's happening to the Republican Party in the former stronghold, for instance, of Orange County in California. Let's watch.
You look out at Orange County, my gosh, as Tom Nichols said, congratulations, Republicans. You just lost Reagan County. It looks like it's going to be a complete wipeout. I remember when Loretta Sanchez beat B1 Bob Dornan in Orange County back in the 1990s. It was a stunner, an absolute shock. Now, Mika, it is a sea of blue. A huge, huge crushing defeat for Trump Republicanism.
Is that what was defeated in California, Trump Republicanism, Newt? It's a very facile analysis by the towering intellects over at MSNBC.
No, look, I think we have to face the reality that in the largest state in the country, California, and the fourth largest state in the country, New York, the size of the union-based machines are now so enormous that we don't frankly know right now how to compete with them. I mean, that's how big this problem is. And so I think we've got to confront the reality that we are dealing with a very profound change. We just had a candidate for city council in Seattle, an independent, withdraw from the race because his wife was being threatened, her job was being threatened, her safety was being threatened, and he wrote a very poignant memo to all of his supporters, sent it out as an email, saying that he was frightened to even run in Seattle because the forces of the left now are so vicious and so hostile. And we have a real problem in our largest state, California, in our fourth largest state, New York, in that both now are centers of enormous union-based power that is so brutal and has so much money that we frankly right now don't know how to compete with them.
Well, and I think, look, there's mass immigration has changed California, no doubt about it. And in many races, there's no Republican running at all. They're just basically two Democrats running against each other. And I don't think this has been happening over years. This didn't just start happening with Trump. That's the part of the facile analysis. This has been a process over 2 decades, at least in California.